Yo, what's the deal, folks? Top of the morning. It's your boy Simp Ease. Hope everybody out there is doing well. Man, Sunday morning, man. Weekend's coming to an end. Hope everything was productive for you. Stay focused. Did everything turned out exactly how you wanted to. But let's get right to it. I want to talk about some hip hop, man. I'm a big fan of the genre. Grew up in it, within it, participated in it to this very day, and have my favorite artists. Have artists that I don't support necessarily, but I still give them a fair shot. Um, but I want to speak on an artist that I grew up on, and that's Jadakiss. And the theme of this video will be whether or not Jadakiss has a classic album. Something to think about. I think his first solo project was 2001. That would be Kiss the Game Goodbye. He had 5 solo projects thus far. Kiss the Game Goodbye, um, Kiss of Death, The Last Kiss, Ignatius, and I feel as though I'm missing one. Um, Top 5 that are alive. Me personally, um, I don't feel like he has a classic. Not because of his pen, because his pen is second to none. Very few people can compare to what Jadakiss has done when it comes to writing. If you need an artist to provide a 16 that's going to be fire, that's your man. I can't even name a whack Jadakiss verse. But when you look at the totality of his discography, we're talking about full bodies of work. I don't feel like he has a classic, mainly because of one reason. There are many reasons, but the one that jumps out to me is that he hasn't developed a sound or a lane that he targets for that particular project and sticks to it. He's like he just does a bunch of records and whatever sticks, that's what he runs with. Now, that is no slander upon his name. Sometimes I feel as though artists get so caught up into what the execs want that they get away from what the fans want of them or expect of them. But an artist such as Jadakiss, who's put so much time into the game, shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. Kiss the Game Goodbye had some dope songs on it, memorable singles, but it's a lot of filler. Go back and listen to it. A lot of it didn't age well. I think his best album by far, is Kiss of Death. And that would be obviously the album with Why, but that's not why I love that album. I love that album because he has songs like By Your Side and a host of others where they ended up being singles, but it happened organically. And what I mean by that is that those B-sides, those records are what stuck with the masses naturally. There was no marketing plan behind it. He just got with dope producers. He did what he did, or he did what he is known to do, write dope lyrics, and it worked. There are some records on there that I'm not a big fan of, like the joints with Pharrell, Hot Sauce, and that felt like a force. You know what I mean? But him and Pharrell had chemistry from the previous album, Knock Yourself Out. So I figured, or maybe they were trying to recreate that. But for the most part, that album, once again, Kiss of Death will probably be his best album. Still Feel Me with Alchemist. I think Shootouts is on there with Styles P. There's a bunch of dope records on there. Is it a classic? No, because there are some records where I felt like he was trying to force, some sales or some spins on the radio, especially with the record Shine with Snoop and Quick. Pretty good record, but didn't sound like a Jada record. You know what I mean? But maybe we don't know what Jada records sound like because he never developed a sound over time. Writing has never been an issue for him, ever. And I'm talking about verses because not the verses battle, but writing verses has never been an issue for him. His hooks have gotten better over the years. But the totality albums as a whole, I don't feel like, he's done his best work. What you think about that? Jada, he had a great year. For some, he had a great year. To me, he had a great career. The Verzuz has catapulted him to new heights where, mainstream hop on something as if it just happened overnight. But the man been putting in pain since the mid 90s. But when it comes to his solo efforts, I don't feel as though he's given us a classic. So the question is whether or not he has a classic. If you believe it, put it in the comment section. And what is the criteria of being top 5 dead or alive? Because if most artists in his position didn't have a classic, would they be allotted to be in that position? Classic verses, yes. Features, yes. Longevity, yes. But where's the classic album? You have artists such as Nas, Illmatic, It Was Written, back-to-back classics for sure, and that's held against him, his own success. J.A.D.A hasn't given us a classic album on his own, solo, and it seems as though that's never brought up. Is it because he started off in the group and he was never considered to be a solo artist? So anything extra that he gave us solo would be something that we cherished or embraced because maybe we would never received it. But that's a valid question. After 20-something years, does Jadakiss have a classic album? Kiss the Game Goodbye is a classic. Be honest with yourself. I think it's about 16 tracks on there. Can you go back and listen almost 21 years later, straight through? No, I tried it this week. There's a lot of filler on there. Kiss of Death, like I stated before, that's his best album, hands down. By Your Side, Still Feel Me, obviously Grammy nominated. Why? It's a bunch of dope records on there, but at the same time, a lot of filler on there as well, a lot of forced music. Next up, we had The Last Kiss. Scale to 1 to 10, we probably get at a 6.5 or a 7. And it has nothing to do with his writing. He always gives you solid verses. His verses will always be impeccable. He's a nightmare. He's a bully when you're on the track with others. Like, you don't want that problem. But that doesn't mean that his selection of hooks are A1. Or even the production sometimes. Sometimes it feels forced. Like, why would you even try to go that lane? Because you don't have to do it. Like, he's in a position where he shouldn't even have to worry about what executives think because you're Jadakiss. You're Jadakiss. Oh, Shiesty 30. I agree. He doesn't have, good morning, my brother. He doesn't have a classic album. So what I'm trying to figure out is, not to say that he isn't, but as far as top 5 dead or alive, what's the criteria for that? Because most artists, if they don't have a classic, it's held against them. So are we basing this off writing verses or features or longevity? Or for some, the recent verses battle catapulted him to the front of the line. But those who've been around already knew his work. You know what I'm saying? He's an MC for sure. Legend, iconic, prolific writer. Been on track for Jay, Nas, Big. He's been here. But my question is, does he have a classic album? And if not, why is that never spoken upon? Oh, Shannon Williams said that his last album was a classic to me. What, Ignatius? Yes, it probably is, in some people's opinion, the best album that he made, but just because you move forward or progress, does that make it a classic? Because there's some filler on there too. What I mean by filler, it just sounds like a song that was on the hard drive. It's like, let's get it out there. When I'm talking about classics, let's go. What's a classic album? Like Little Brother, The Listening. That's a classic. Obviously, reasonable doubt. That's a classic. AZ Do It Die One. That's a classic. You press play, you can clean the whole crib. Don't even worry about switching songs or skipping. You play it straight through. That's a classic, and it sits with you. Now, granted, I'm a firm believer that I don't believe in this whole instant classic thing where people calling things classic 12 hours after it release. But at the same time, I hate to say it, man. J.A.D.A, I love J.A.D.A for real, but I just don't feel like he has a classic album. And I'm willing to not argue, but debate with anyone, or even be receptive to information. I can be swayed, but the argument has to be valid. I don't feel like he's ever taken the time to develop a sound. That's the thing. Cohesion. When you're making projects, that's gonna, because think about it. Most of us that's in this chat right here, from Joel Joseph, the Shice to the Shannon Williams, it's never the single that sits with you. It's those B-sides. Those are the ones. Those are the ones that you always remember where you were when it first grabbed you. Because the singles come and go. It's rare that singles become something, a part of your life, in the sense that you play it everywhere you go. You know what I'm saying? You have a moment for it. But it's the B-sides. And I said, like on the last Kiss, no, Kiss of Death, he has those like By Your Side and Still Feel Me. Why would have been a B-side. That's an organic single. I don't think they forced that. And I don't think they went into the studio thinking that was going to be what it was. That's why it's so great. But when you get the records like Hot Sauce with Pharrell or Shorty Getting It In With Me, those sound forced. And I think that's always been Jada's issue. But at the same time, he gets a pass because most artists such as Nas, who considered to be in that same echelon, are crucified for the very things that he's done. And Nas got classics. So what's the criteria? What's the criteria for being top 5 dead or alive? Let me know in the comment or chat section. And also, does Kiss have a classic album? I don't think so. I listen to his discography quite often. And I'm such a fan, I try to find a silver lining and give him the benefit of the doubt, but it doesn't exist. Because I don't feel like he's ever been executive produced on a solo level. You know what I'm saying? Like if I think Diddy would have executive produced one of his solo projects, he could possibly have a classic, because you can tell that musically it's always missing something. Yeah, he'll go get that fire beat from Scott Storch, and that'll sound good sonically, but he'll have a track over here that feels as though it doesn't fit the album. Classic mixtapes, yes. But I don't want to categorize him as a mixtape rapper, because that's a slap in his face, because he's an MC. We've seen that. We've seen it live in concert, and those who haven't, you've seen him on the stage at Verzuz. He's a consummate professional, yes. But does he have a classic album? And if you don't have a classic album, based upon my criteria, can you be top 5 dead or alive? What's Shannon say? Okay, Shannon, I can go with that. He on Ignatius. Well, that may be, if you're referring to Ignatius, maybe that's because it was a heartfelt album. That was probably the only album that had a theme, because it was related to Ice Pick J, his former manager who passed away of cancer. So his heart was in it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe my issue is that, or other people's issue is the fact that he doesn't go into the album process with an ultimate goal of where he's trying to get. Probably just goes in the studio, does a bunch of tracks, and then when it's time to release something, you get pulled. You'll bring the hard drive through. Let's select the best nowadays, 25 tracks, and that's the album. But on that album, Ignatius, production-wise, it was a lot of post-production. You can hear like live instrumentation, things of that nature. It did flow. Like as far as cohesion, that may be his best album. So I can't knock anyone. Listen, your opinion is your opinion. I'm not knocking anyone for liking any album, because I want to be swayed into believing that he has a classic, because I support the man. I don't stream. I bought all his joints. You know what I'm saying? Even the locks. Because I've always had the firm belief of, when it comes to that group, that J.A.D.A always had the best verses. Styles, historically within the three of them, makes the best songs. And this may sound crazy, but if you do the research and go back to the whole discography, Sheik has the best albums out of all three of them. J.A.D.A best verses, Styles makes the best songs, and Sheik usually has the best albums. Because it's much more than, when it comes to albums or complete bodies of work, I think people get caught up in thinking that it's just about a bunch of songs. No, it comes down to the mixing, obviously the writing, sequencing. Because having a song listed at number 3 when it should have been number 6 can kill the whole flow of an album. You ever listen to an album, you're like, damn, the first 3 tracks was whack. Maybe if they put track 2 at track 8, the cohesion would have been better, and I could have experienced a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? A little better. Now we can do that because we can create our own playlists and switch things around. But imagine buying a CD and you like, yo, why is this on here? We all been there before, right? And I've been through that a lot with J.A.D.A. Top 20? Woo! Top 20. All right. So give me 5. No, not even 5, because it's easy to do that. 5. Give me 10. Shiesty 30. Give me 10 artists that's better than J.A.D.A. Put that in the chat. Oh, Joel Joseph. That is. Yeah, 50 definitely has a classic. And most people would say Get Rich or Die Trying. But if you're a true fan, Power to Dollar is a classic too. So that's 2. Even though it's unreleased. If you ever had your hands on it, I remember bumping that on the Ave, bootleg and all. Classic. So that's 2 back-to-backs. Game Documentary is definitely a classic. And some may even say LAX is. Shannon, you coming with the fire. You know what's crazy? I was speaking about this not too long ago. I don't have 3 stacks in my top 5 or top 10. Because with me, potential isn't enough. Yes, what he's done is crazy. His pen is prolific, but he don't have the body of work. And I feel like he cheated the fans on that. How could you be that nice and that great I feel maybe that's the thing with some of these artists like Mystique, like they feel as though the less I put out, the more attention I'll garner, in the sense that, the mystique and it's hard to come by my music, like a J.A.D.A situation. Like that's like the 3 stacks. But even J.A.D.A has a discography. 3 stacks, although he's got the joints with Outkast, when it comes to solo work, that's a whole different other beast. Because when you're in the group, all you got to do is, you bring your verse, I bring my verse, and we got a feature, and then somebody write the hook. But when you have a solo album, it's hard to be a solo dolo artist, man. And that's why a lot of these cats, that's the chink in their armor, their output. Their output. And I think that's 3 stacks' biggest detriment, not his talent. Because anyone that say he's not a top 10 or top 5 or 6 writer of all time, you're lying to yourself, man. Ain't no doubt about it. But as far as the output goes, I feel like he cheated us, man. Everything he get on is fire. Everything. Even the last joint released with him and Ye, he went crazy. Wasn't released the right way. He went crazy. But, nah. J.A.D.A 2050. Oh, Shannon, you're right. He is a lyrical genius. And listen, we're not throwing that term around lightly. That man is a genius. Like he's an artist. You know what I mean? Like he transcends hip hop. He's shown that with that Hey like you got a Diamond album. I think they're the first hip hop group to win Album of the Year at the Grammys. Not to say that that's what we should be aiming for. You know what I'm saying? But they've done some great things. But I wish he had a solo classic album as well. But J.A.D.A, You had a great year, man. A great career, and you still going strong. But we still waiting on that classic, at least for me. An undoubtable classic. Reasonable Doubt. Like that's Life After Death, those are classics. 36 Chambers, classic. You know what I mean? Those are classic albums like you can't even deny. Smith and West first album, you know what I mean? Black Moon, Into the Stage, classic. Ooh, Kiss Over J. Explain that to me. I'm gonna keep talking, but I'm gonna read your reply in a minute. Like Shannon, you have Kiss Over J, and what's like overall, or just if you needed a 16, you taking Kiss Over J. 50, I don't either, but he's to support the man. We're gonna go through this playlist right now then. You wanna know what songs I'm skipping on Ignatius? Need Your Best. That Ty Dolla $ign, definitely don't like that record. Keep It 100, wasn't a big fan of that. Hunting Season was a problem. Like I love, not a problem in a good way. I was a very big fan of that song. Angels Getting Pedicure is fire. It got some joints on there. I just don't feel like that's not a classic album to me. Like that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Joel, I agree. Discography. Listen, there ain't too many people in the history of music that got a better discography than Jay. Because another thing with Jay, he got the classics as far as like singles go, but his B-sides, man. The B-sides. I'm sorry. You feel like that's a dope song? Keep It 100? That's it playing right here. Mm-mm. Everybody else in the chat, if you heard Ignatius, are you a big fan of Keep It 100? It's not the verses part. I don't like the hook. I wasn't a big fan of it. When I say the hook, I'm talking about the chorus. Wasn't a big fan of that. But maybe to some people, they gravitated to it because it was something different for Kiss in the sense that he did take a chance and he went the more melodic route. He got out of his comfort zone. So as an artist and as a fan, you should appreciate those type of things. But I just wasn't the biggest fan of that song. Like if I'm like on each album, there's a standard, right? Like Hunting Season on that. That's I think that's track 2. When that came on, I'm like, damn, this it right here. That's it. And I think what Keep 100 is track 3. I could be wrong. Is it track 3? It is. It comes right after Hunting Season. Is Keep It 100 better than Angels Getting Manicured or Pedicured? Oh, you're not talking about discography when it comes to Jay-Z and Kiss because Jay-Z has too many albums that lyrically he's better than Jay-Z. Ooh, that's a whole nother chat or live, man. He's better than Jay lyrically. Listen, we have to speak about that someday. All right. Wow. What makes him better in the sense of what? Like just getting to the punchline, or just being a bully on the track, or his track record, or the features that they had together. You feel as though J.A.D.A got the best end of that, or what about J.A.D.A's lyrics gives him the crown over Jay? And I'm not arguing either way because they're both problems. But Joel, that's the question though. That's why we here talking. I'm trying to figure out the same thing. And I'm a fan. I'm not one of these cats who get on here and hate on artists. No, I go out and I don't be straight. I buy the joint. You know what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with streaming. Don't get it twisted. But I try to support the art because it's, the way things are going, there's less money funneling through this industry in the sense of artists getting paid off their own work. You know what I'm saying? Everything else is marketing in the sense of you have other avenues of social media. I try to support the artists. You know what I'm saying? I try to do that. So I'm not on here hating. I just don't feel as though over time I've been a hip hop fan for so long. Jaden's never given me a classic. He just hasn't. I'm waiting on it. And some way say a classic is relative. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's very few people. I've never heard someone say Illmatic is not a classic. So you can have a unanimous classic. You know what I'm saying? Like you can have one. It's a bunch of classic albums in hip hop. It's a bunch of them that many people agree upon. And when I speak to a lot of people, no one ever says Jada has a classic album. Or if they have, it's been very few. The percentage has been so low, it ain't even worth mentioning. Jay-Z content never changed after Volume 1. Not saying he didn't make tough songs, but almost every song had the same content up until today. With the exception of 444 possibly. And that was nothing but probably a Nas's Life is Good released almost 10 years later. You know what I'm saying? So, but you don't feel like Jay is grown? Content in what sense? What is the formula with him? You feel as though it's the same approach to every record, just repackaged with different production? Like, explain that to me, Shannon. When you say Jay-Z content never changed after volume 1, which was almost a back-to-back classic too, with Reasonable Doubt in volume 1, with an exception of a few songs. Trying to chase what the execs wanted, he kind of screwed that up. That's why I can't. I joined with Babyface. What's it called? Sunshine. Yeah. But I just want to know, man. For those in here now and those who probably view it later, if you feel as though Jadakiss has a classic album, make your case. Prove it. Just prove it to me. I need to know, man. And I'll go back and try to listen to it again. But I just don't feel as though he's giving us one. But the beauty of it is, he's not even on a decline. And that says a lot about him as well. So if you are going to make a case for him being top 5 without a classic, the fact that he's remained so strong, relevant, and his pen hasn't tapered or wavered off over the years is something that can be argued in his case. Because he still has time. I just feel as though he got to get with an executive producer, man. Don't let your man's name A&R the joint. Get with an executive producer and make it happen. But he did show growth, Shannon, on Ignatius, especially as far as production goes. You can tell that those weren't beats that were emailed to him. He just rhymed over them and they made the album. Like it sounds like the producers went back in, let's add these keyboards and arrangements and some progressions here on top of it. It has the musicality to it, you know what I mean? And that was something different. So I can't knock him from that. That's growth. So who's to say that the next one won't be a classic? But we're waiting on it. I think he's still on Def Jam and so many things moving parts over there. Ain't no telling when we getting another Jadakiss album. All right, folks. So listen, man. Had a great time chatting with you. I'm gonna try to go live a little bit more often. This is my first time going live, actually. Who do I think won the Jada Beans battle? Are we talking about the one-offs, or are we just talking overall? Because if we talking the 2 tracks, Beans got that. Beans definitely got that. And that's a whole other debate too, because people forget about Bean's contributions, man. Beans was a headache for a lot of people on tracks, man. We mentioned Jay. Listen, he gave Jay the business on plenty of features, man. Go back and listen. Like, definitely did that. Definitely did that. But yo, I got to get up out of here, man. Yo, had a great time chatting with y'all, man. I appreciate all y'all getting up on a Sunday morning, kicking it with me. Your Shannon, Shyster, Joel, anybody else that I miss. Yo, man, I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. And I'm definitely doing this a little bit more. Y'all be good, all right?